On the right, we have Hurricane Earl. On the left, we have Hurricane K. And in between, well, we've got some room for maybe some nice weather coming for the east and the northeast and mid-Atlantic states, not the southeast where rain is coming, but for the northeast and mid-Atlantic states for the next couple of days as we head into the weekend. All that and more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware, your landscape and garden supply outlet on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon in southwest Suffolk County. They have what you need to be prepared for storms. You don't want to lose power. You don't want to have flooding. Make sure your pumps are working and making your yard and your home looking great and safe. Mulch, topsoil, and come wintertime, the area's largest supplier of salt. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website, as we all know, is
OmniTrueValue.com, Joe.
yeah. So here we are on a Thursday. Another week moves along, and I don't really see too much of a problem for the next couple of days, tomorrow, Saturday, and I'm going to take a shot that the GFS is rushing precip eastward too quickly and say that most of the dayside Sunday for maybe not so much in eastern Pennsylvania, but from east of there, New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, you might disagree with this, Hudson Valley, southern New England, Long Island, that most of Sunday should be okay, and that the rain holds off until after sunset, which thankfully is coming earlier and earlier in order to help my forecast along.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've got a dry Sunday, and I also have a dry Monday, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
I think also it's going to be rather cloudy or cloudier on Sunday as opposed to Saturday. But nonetheless, I think we're going to go right straight through the weekend with dry weather. And again, of the two weekend days, the brighter and sunnier of the two looks to be Saturday. And tomorrow looks like a bright and sunny end of the week. And overnight tonight and tomorrow night, a couple of clear nights, maybe some patches of fudge in the valleys, especially early in the morning, but that'll burn off quickly once the sun comes looming over the horizon. But I think I agree with you, Joe. It looks like we've got a nice stretch of weather here for the next few days coming up. And our next chance, I think, of getting wet or seeing any significant shower activity won't come until Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Some showers, maybe even a rumble or two of thunder. But until then, I think we're more or less clean and free.
All right, so you're not at all buying the notion that this tropical moisture that's coming into the southeast, it's going to run up, at least initially run up to our west, and maybe a little bit of a warm front sets up. So you're not buying into the idea that maybe some showers will come in, later Sunday night into Monday morning, and then we just wait for the cold front to do whatever the cold front is going to do when it gets here Monday night and Tuesday.
Well, I won't rule out the possibility that there might be a few renegade spits or showers, but not until Sunday night. I think during the
yeah.
daylight hours on Sunday. But I could just as well see also a lot of that stuff from the south or staying just out of our area and keeping us dry right on straight through into Monday before we see any real threat of showers here. That'll be with the front on Tuesday.
All right, so welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. It's nice to see everyone here. Since this question's come up a couple of times today, I'll just address it now. So Theodore Johnson, who is new to the chat board, welcome. And he says, what can we say about the winter of 2022 in the Midwest? So I'm going to say this for the umpteenth time. For you, it might be the first time since you're on the chat board, but for other people on the chat board, one person in particular, it's probably the umpteenth time. I'm not a long range type of guy, okay? The folks that do the long range, it's not even just a matter of looking at a couple of maps and saying, okay, well, this is what I think is going to happen for 3 months. All right, it's a very intricate process. It's very technical. It's highly technical in nature. And frankly, it's above my pay grade, and it's also kind of not in my realm of it's not in my toolbox, let's say. I've never been good at it. So if I'm not good at something, I'm not going to just keep banging my head against the wall, because when you bang your head against the wall long enough, you get a headache. And if you keep banging your head against the wall, you're going to keep getting headaches. So I'm sorry I cannot give you an answer, because honestly, I have no idea. I have no clue. Maybe Joe Rayo has a clue. I have no clue.
Yeah, the year is going to start out very cold. Um, all of a sudden, about late February, early March, the weather's going to start trending toward nice, and it's going to get nicer and nicer until about May or June. Then we're going to have a bit of a hot spell around the end of June, early July, which will last probably
All right,
right on through a good part of August.
you're giving a lovely political answer, which we know politics is banned on this channel. So just beware.
Then that nice weather is going to return again around September and continue into October, and then it's going to start getting chilly and then downright cold again late October or November, and then we're going to finish the year out probably on a cold note. So, in my opinion, 2023 is going to pretty much look like the same kind of weather we've experienced so far in 2022.
Well,
How do you
okay,
like that?
yeah, you said so much by saying so little. But in all, really, seriously, I have no clue. I couldn't begin to tell you what's this. You ever see? I don't know if you see it. I always see Twitter posts when I look, which I don't look often, or even occasionally on Ragebook, from long range folks. You know, some of the stuff that they put up is really technical, and they're looking at the 10 millibar and this wave and that wave and the gravity wave and the stratosphere and on it goes. I'm just going to leave it to them to do what they do best, and not um, not interject my never to be humble opinion. And I think that's the way I handle all of this. Biter lady or birder lady, hit our first super chat hit of the night, Joe. Thank you, birder lady,
Oh,
for doing that. Uh,
she'll be interested in here. I have been living here in Putnam Valley now, Joe, for just over 20 years, and only one other time did I make a sighting that I made this afternoon as I was getting the mail and coming up my driveway to bring the mail back to the house. I made a sighting of a bird which I have been trying to see for all of these years, only seen it once before, a pileated woodpecker, a magnificent bird. I'd have to say it's at least 16 or 18 inches high, with the red crest, and it makes this very unusual sound. Which, when you hear it, you say, "Oh, there's the pileated woodpecker." It has been hiding in the woods surrounding my house for all of these years, and I've been wondering if I'm ever going to see it again. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it just flew above my head across the field and back into the woods. I said, "I think that was the pileated woodpecker." And I got to look at it, quickly. Excuse me. The pileated woodpecker does not sneeze, but it does pound. It does pound, quickly against, dead tree wood. And it, sure enough, I'm sure, I'm 100% certain it was a pileated woodpecker. So I don't know if Birder Lady is, into woodpeckers, but I got a little excited being a woodpecker today. So
I
that was the big thing for me.
I will just tell you that here they are quite common. So I do see them from time to time. In fact, I have a special pileated woodpecker feeder on my deck, and it allows the bird, those little suet things that you put in. Okay,
Yeah.
so it actually holds two of them, and the feeder uh, that holds it. I guess the best way to describe it, it looks like, when you go to a pizzeria and you have that wooden paddle that they use to pick up the pizza with. It's kind of a
Right.
miniature version of that, and the reason why it's like that is that this way the bird can balance himself with his tail, and at the same time get at the suet. So every once in a while, I get one on the deck to enjoy the fruits that I put out for said bird. So
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you got to see it. Uh,
Yes. It
awesome.
was. You could tell that this is if this was the highlight of my day, seeing a pileated woodpecker. You very quickly can see that I don't have really much to look forward to or look at during a typical during a typical day.
Oh well. By the way, you are sounding better tonight for the first time. And I mean, you sounded a little better last night. You're actually sounding significantly better tonight. So that's
I'm
a
enjoying
that's a
at dinner.
plus.
My wife has introduced me to something, and I think I'm going to have it a lot more frequently. I used to have this with powdered. There was a powder that you put in your water to make it taste either orangey or lemony or whatever, or even like lime. But now she just has this thing looks like a lemon, and she squeezes the lemon juice into a glass of cold water with ice cubes, and I'm enjoying it. It's not lemon soda, but it's like
As a
lemon water.
as an Italian, I get that that was around me all the time. I'm surprised you haven't. This is the first time that you have come into contact with this.
I just I mean, like she's had it a lot of times. I just said, let me just see what this tastes like. Tastes good. So
And
there you go.
it's actually good for you.
Good.
And it's good when things are good for you.
Right.
All right, let's bring up the satellite uh, loop tonight, and just give me a moment here as we pull it up here. Da 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 da. So we've got Earl now closing in 140 miles at the 5 o'clock advisory south of Bermuda, moving. Uh, you know what? I forgot what direction they were saying. It was moving north or northeast. I'm looking at the satellite. It looks like it's still moving more north than anything else, and it's also getting bigger. It looks like the eye. I'm trying to make a judgment here on the infrared, but it looks like the eye is getting larger as the system moves further to the north. I do have a reconnaissance aircraft report that the plane is in there right now, making its first closing off the center for the first time at 962 millibars. So it hasn't really changed very much. And I'm just looking at the wind barbs. There's a we got some 83 to 96 knot winds on the east side of the center. That's where you see that little plane icon. So it's flying in that direction to the east, and it's going to come around and try to close off another center so we could see the exact movement here on the on this. Where they have the 962, it looks like it's roughly at 30.4 north and roughly at about 64.4 west or 3.5 west. And Bermuda's at uh, 32 and about 64 and a half. So it's
Well,
almost due south of Bermuda.
the last discussion from the Hurricane Center said that Earl should make its closest approach about 75 to 100 nautical miles southeast of Bermuda at around 0600 coordinated universal time. That would be for us, Joe. That would be 2 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning, and then the trough that is located in the vicinity of Earl is expected to capture it in 48 to 60 hours, resulting in a substantial slowdown in Earl's motion. Earl looks like it's moving toward they're saying it's beginning to accelerate to the northeast. Aircraft fixes indicating an estimated motion of 0-30 degrees at 13 knots.
So Bermuda will probably get into some tropical storm force winds out of this. And the winds on the west side, actually, the winds on the west side going all the way out to about 66 west, at least at flight level. I mean, there's some pretty strong winds at 50, 60 knots, all the way out to 66 west. So you got to think that they're going to get some rather strong gusty winds, certainly gales, and they'll miss the strongest winds, which are on the east side. But
Well, they say that even though the tropical storm force winds even though the center is forecast to pass southeast of Bermuda, tropical storm force winds are expected on the island tonight into tomorrow morning. And they also throw in the statement, Joe, that hurricane force winds, 75 mile per hour, are still possible on Bermuda tonight if Earl's track shifts just a little further west than currently forecast. So it'll be a rough night on the island of Bermuda tonight, but certainly by tomorrow morning, as the storm begins to pull away from Bermuda, the wind should die off quickly. And as we have pointed out over and over again, this island in the Atlantic Ocean, the Bermuda, has encountered innumerable close calls and direct hits from tropical cyclones. And you would think, even in the worst case scenario, that they would take weeks and months to recover. And I can assure you that come a week from now, if you were to go to Bermuda, you probably wouldn't even know that Earl had passed on by tonight and tomorrow morning. They clean up and rapidly get back to normal very, very quickly after a storm passes by.
And the Hurricane Center's forecast really hasn't wavered very much. They still have this becoming a major hurricane tonight or on Friday morning. At that point, it's moving away from Bermuda. And they have it a major at 2 a.m. Saturday morning. And then they start to go post-tropical with this as it passes. Folks, I know we have folks that watch from Nova Scotia and from Newfoundland. It's well south and east of Nova Scotia, so it's not an issue. Newfoundland, it gets a little bit closer, but I think it's still far enough south and east. Although, if it's becoming post-tropical at that point, there might be more precip on the west side than on the east side, in which case maybe it gets brushed. Maybe Sable Island gets brushed with some rain and a little bit of wind, but the bulk of this is going to stay out to the southeast. And in fact, we can at least look at the
Joe,
yeah.
You got to shrink yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to do that.
Okay. You're blocking the maps.
All right. You got to remind me. Thank you. I forgot. I'm kind of tired tonight, to tell you the God's honest truth. So here is the GFS for tonight, and you can see it goes northeastward. It actually just misses. The gradient tightens up in southeastern Newfoundland somewhat, but most of the rain is mostly offshore as it moves away to the northeast. There are some other, there's a closed tropical low in the central Atlantic that the Hurricane Center had like a 70% chance of developing. If it doesn't develop soon, the shear, the lagging upper trough and shear that's going to be produced to the south from Earl is going to rip this thing apart anyway. So the window of opportunity for this to develop is probably is extremely short. And then after that, we're going to be it should be done. It'll either be absorbed by, it's just either going to get sheared apart or just get absorbed by Earl as it moves away to the northeast. Danielle, by the way, is that low that's way out in the North Atlantic. It's become post-tropical. That is rotating around and probably going to make a visit to Portugal by the time we get to early next week. And I'm not seeing the GFS do very much here with regards to anything else other than just a couple of tropical waves. The European has been more bullish with systems coming off the African coast, and in fact, it keeps trying to show what looks like a fairly well-developed. Let me just move it back here. So now we're at to Saturday, and here's Friday. So there's a low in the that's going to get sheared apart by Earl. There's a tropical wave that's there now that's moving out, forms a little closed low, but I don't think the European really does much with that as it moves westward. And then there's a stronger tropical wave that comes out early next week that the European carries along and moves on a west-northwest course and makes it into a tropical storm by the time we get to day 9 and day 10. But it's still way out somewhere at about, not even to 50, maybe about 50 west or so. So that's a long ways away. So that little burst of development here, and then it just kind of went to sleep. So let's shift over to the west where we've got Hurricane K. To take a look at what the European is doing with K. And again, it's that shortwave up in Montana that's weakening the ridge and allowing K to straddle up the west coast of the Baja Peninsula. And you see the rain that gets spread into Southern California. Actually, Joe, there's been stuff on the radar all day in Southern California already. And then the low starts to make that left turn just as it's about to get to the same latitude as San Diego, it makes that left turn. And it's weakening, too, all the way along. We have to emphasize the fact that this is weakening. This is not going to be a full-fledged tropical storm, or certainly not going to be a hurricane. Uh, Once it's making landfall at that part of the Baja Peninsula that sort of sticks out, but the water there is cold, and it's just going to start to weaken and weaken fairly quickly over time. It's a matter of how much of this tropical moisture is able to survive as it moves northwestward, and I think some of it will, and certainly the European says that. And so does the GFS. I think the GFS has probably been a little more bullish on the rainfall than the European has. This runs a little bit to the left of the prior run, but they're going to get something out of this. There's no doubt of that. They already are.
Yeah, there's no question. And the latest technical advisory does indeed say that the storm, looking at satellite imagery and also reports from the Air Force reconnaissance aircraft, shows that K continues to weaken. In fact, the aircraft couldn't find winds supporting hurricane intensity in the part of the storm that it was sampling, and it reported that the central pressure had actually risen to 982 millibars, and that plus the interaction with the colder sea surface that it is occurring now and in the hours to come certainly will indeed weaken the storm. But nonetheless, Joe, a lot of tropical moisture involved with K, and a lot of that is going to be flung northward. And as you pointed out on radar in Southern California, they're already picking up on that. So they will likely have a period of precipitation from a most unusual source that they would not normally expect to see in the month of September, a former tropical cyclone, a former hurricane, and that will be the case for the next few days.
Yeah, WPC has this is a flash flood risk. We've got slight risk in coastal South Carolina, Georgia, into coastal eastern Florida, northeastern Florida, and you see a small area of marginal risk, which is unrelated to this tropical system in northwest Arizona and also up into Montana. Now, starting tomorrow morning, however, WPC continues to show, this is valid from tomorrow morning 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. Saturday, a moderate risk of flash flooding. So that's at least 40% probability of flash flooding. High risk is 70%. So somewhere between 40 and 69% is the risk area for this moderate risk zone in Southern California. They even have a slight risk, which is 15 to 40%, pushing up north of LA, and the marginal risk pushes even further north, up the coast in LA. And the marginal risk, by the way, extends through southern Nevada, Arizona, parts of northwest New Mexico, and southwest Colorado. We also want to point out, with moisture that's coming into the southeastern part of the U.S., that includes me in northeast Georgia, a marginal to slight risk of flash flooding in this zone. And when we move to day 3, which is Saturday into Sunday, we do have a slight risk continuing through much of Southern California, Southern Nevada, including Las Vegas, Western Arizona. And that's pretty impressive there in terms of the risk area that they're pointing out. Also, a marginal risk of flash flooding from New Mexico northeastward all the way up into Wisconsin. And we have a slight risk of flash flooding in South Carolina into northeastern Georgia, just touching northeastern Georgia, western North Carolina with a much larger area of marginal risk that pushes up into West Virginia and a very, very small quarter of southwestern PA. And in terms of the rainfall, by the way, in terms of total rainfall amounts, we'll just show you the 7-day rainfall amounts here. Very impressive here in Southern California. Some areas getting 2 to 3 inches or more in a narrow band. And you know, remember, there's a lot of mountains down here, so it's there's going to be shadows where some areas get little or nothing, and other areas are going to get blasted. The chance that there probably could be a thunderstorm or two in the mix wouldn't be a surprise either. But the 1-inch line pushes pretty far north up into California, Joe, from the south. And then in the southeast, we also have patches of 2, 3, 4 inches of rain over the next 7 days, and in fact, WPC pushing it up into the northeast. And this carries us through next Thursday night, by the way. Anywhere from a half an inch to as much as an inch and a quarter, maybe even an inch and a half for New England, upstate New York, down the coast through New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and continuing down into northern Virginia. Also, in and around the Great Lakes or in Wisconsin and back into parts of Iowa, we're seeing, and that extends back into the Central Plains and up in the northern Rockies, seeing a significant amount of rainfall in the next 7 days as well. So kind of a wettish looking WPC forecast here in terms of total rainfall for the next week.
Yeah, just getting back to Kay for a moment. One of the key messages that the Hurricane Center has listed: flash urban and small stream flooding is likely across Southern California. Well, I guess that owes the effect to the moderate risk of flooding on the map that you showed just a few moments ago. Likely across Southern California beginning Friday, especially in and near the peninsular ranges. Flash urban and small stream flooding is possible beginning Friday in southwest Arizona. And I did notice on the 7-day precip map there that a small little corner of southwest Arizona is indeed engaged in 1 inch or more of precipitation. So, yeah, this is Kay is going to be bringing a significant amount of rain. Again, not normally seen in the month of September, because September is known to be a relatively fair and dry month, but not with this scenario that we're looking at now and for at least the next 24 to 36 hours.
And this is going to start, by the way, as I said, it's already on. There's stuff already on the radar from lead moisture that's shooting up northwestward. This is the latest GFS with rainfall amounts, and it's pushing the 2-inch plus area into Southern California. It's probably a little less robust than what we've seen in prior runs. This I went back to the 6C run here from overnight, was a bit more robust, especially further up into the state, and the 12Z was almost as robust as the 6Z. Maybe a little bit further to the south in terms of the northwestern edge of this, but still, this time of year, again, remember, these areas sometimes get baked so dry that you get a quarter of an inch of rain, and then all that water just winds up running off. It's not like we're talking about sometimes here in the east we get these storms, or in the Gulf states, in the Ohio and Tennessee Valley, you get these setups where you get 5-10 inches plus of rainfall. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything like that, but it's still going to have impact. And here's today's European, by the way, which is fairly bullish with the rainfall amounts. The half-inch line going well north of Los Angeles, and even surrounding areas around Las Vegas getting about a half an inch of rain. And if they get a half an inch of rain in Vegas, that's problematic.
And by the way, excuse me, here's some statistics that are just out now on the month of August here in the New York metropolitan area. August 2022 at Central Park, the third hottest August on record, Joe.
Really?
With an average high of 86.9 degrees, average high of 86.9, average low of 71.7, 3.2 degrees above average. August 2022 ranks as New York City's third hottest August on record, behind August of 1980 and August of 2005. The hottest temperature of the month, and so far the entire year, was on August the 9th, when the temperature hit 97. The last time it was this hot in August was in 2006, and this was one of the 11 days in the 90s, which was well above the average of 4. So there you go. The August was the 14th. This August was the 14th to have 10 or more days with highs of 90 degrees or hotter. August 1980 was the most with 15, and its 22 days with lows of 70 or warmer was tied for second most behind 1980, 2005, 2018. All of those had 23. So it was certainly a hot one. And once again, average high temperature was 86.9, Average low 71.7. Average temperature overall 79.3. The highest temperature in August of 2022 was 97 at Central Park. The low was 62. We had 1.71 inches of rain in 2022 August. 11 days of 90 degrees, 87 degrees or higher, 18 days, lows of 70 or higher, 22. In other words, 22 days out of the 31 in August, the low temperature got no lower than 70 degrees. And there were actually 8 days where the low temperature was above 75. And high temperatures that were cooler than 80, there were only 3 in the entire month of August. So a hot one. Number 3 on the list of hot Augusts on record at Central Park. And what else can I say? It was a hot month.
Considering back in June there were certain people that were screaming because summer was never going to happen. It did.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yep. Those warm nights really, those are killers. And,
Oh, yeah.
I think about that when I wake up in the morning here and it's in the low 60s. I was 63 this morning. It felt so wonderful. So anyway, on that particular note, let's go back to the upper air and take a look at what the European has to say going forward. And here we go. Okie dokie. So I've kind of marked everything off. You see where K is, the circle off Baja Peninsula. You see the shortwave. That's a pretty good trough that from an upper low in western Hudson's Bay that goes down into Montana. That weakened the ridge in the west so much that it's allowing K to move much further north than it otherwise would have.
Right.
In the Gulf states, we have the bottom of this trough in the east from a couple of days ago. That's cutting off near Louisiana. That's what's pulling up Gulf moisture into the southeastern part of the U.S., which is why we see those risks for flash floods and heavy rains. Earl, and this is for Friday morning. Earl at this point is is northeast of Bermuda and moving away. And as we go forward in time, we talked about this yesterday. We got a nice ridge building in between Earl and the trough that's swinging into the Dakotas on Saturday. So that keeps the weather fine for Friday. It keeps the weather fine for Saturday. And the European keeps wanting to cut this off well to the west, which if this verifies, we're still kind of in a ridge position here along the East Coast Sunday evening, that would argue against any rain getting in here, certainly through the daytime on Sunday, maybe later Sunday night or on Monday as the upper low starts to drop further south and then starts to swing eastward. The European has been insisting that it may take most of next week to get this out of the way. It finally starts to get it out of the way on today's run on Wednesday, and then that would be followed by some improving weather conditions for Thursday and Friday of next week. The GFS, which was kind of showing that after Tuesday the weather would get better in a hurry in past runs, is now sort of on the same page with the European. This treats the cutoff low a little differently Tuesday night. It holds on to it as a viable entity for Tuesday night into early Wednesday, but this would argue that we could see improving weather conditions maybe as early as Wednesday, and then the second half of next week will be okay until another trough comes in with maybe a cold front late next week into the Northeast. So it'll be a matter of how things line up on the radar, how much Gulf moisture gets pulled up the coast. The latest run of the GFS, for example, I'll just roll it back. You can see Earl there on the lower left. You can see some showers developing during the day across Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. They start to lift up, and then there's more showers on Saturday. Most of that's to the west. This is Saturday evening. Excuse me. I'm about to... Excuse me. A good sneeze. Thank you. You see the showers that are lined up. Western half of PA, Western Virginia, Western North Carolina, down through Georgia into the Florida Panhandle. Because of where the cutoff is, all the tropical moisture is really going up along the Appalachians and to the west of it. Now, this is supposedly on the GFS show. This is Sunday morning with rain to about I-81 Sunday morning, and actually has rain around Sunday afternoon in northern New Jersey, but that area weakens. I don't know that I necessarily believe this. I kind of
No,
I kind of think that this lead area is a bit overzealous, and that it's going to have to wait or this is Sunday evening. Now this may not be too far from the truth, where you've got rain in central and western PA and down in Virginia and North Carolina. That comes through Sunday night into Monday morning, and then it's got showery rains during the day on Monday and Monday night, and even on Tuesday, especially as you go to the Northeast into New England, and then after that, weather conditions start to improve. So I'm gonna leave out rain for Sunday dayside for now. More like later Sunday night into Monday morning, I think, is much more likely, which means that the weekend should be fine. And you know what? The dew points are going to behave themselves, which is really nice, at least for Friday and Saturday. And even on Sunday, when they start to come up, they won't be terrible.
no. And by the way, it would not dare rain all this weekend because Renata says it's not. Of course, this is her big Oktoberfest, the Putnam Valley, the German American Club in Putnam Valley, having their big Oktoberfest both Saturday and on Sunday. And so she wants the best possible weather conditions, dry conditions. And so it would not dare to be anything but that
Yes,
for
she must
for
be.
for the weekend.
She must be having conversations with Sal Blandino,
Yeah. Well,
who's a huge
that,
star, by the way. You know.
or Mr. What's his name? We had him on the chat board. He was always complaining. Mr.
What, Billy the Kid?
No, not Billy the Kid. Um, well, it's been so long since he's been on the chat board. I've forgotten who it is.
Oh, you're not. You're
Fairchild.
yes,
Mr. Fairchild.
the Reuben Fairchild Award.
Reuben Fairchild. Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
There you go.
we haven't awarded the Reuben Fairchild Award in a long time.
Yep.
All right, let's do. Leon Probitsky hit super chat, by the way. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. And let's do some Briller Jeopardy, and then we could go to bed because I'm kind of tired. Um, and we'll have a couple of days off to look forward to because we won't be back until Sunday. 12 noon work for you on Sunday, by the way?
No, because 12 noon is when the fest starts, and I'm supposed to be at my. I still don't know what I'm supposed to do with this fest. For the Spring Fest in May or June, I had control of the Bouncy Bounce. I had all these kids going into the Bouncy Bounce house. So it started. The fest begins on Sunday at noontime and runs until 7. So can we push it back to our semi-regular 11 a.m. time, or
That's fine.
should we just?
That's fine.
All right.
All right. So we've been doing retired tropical storms. That's been the theme for this week. So here we go. Today we are going to be looking at the letter D. The letter D. And just a couple of hints. 3 of the 8 retired storms are regulars. The names are regulars. The names of regular people on the chat board. So the years we're looking at is, since they've been naming storms, so basically 1955 to 2019 for the D storm, the retired D storms.
Now, how many are there?
There are 8 of them.
And how many are female, and how many of them are male?
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 are male, 4 are female.
Oh, very democratic, aren't we?
Yes.
The only one I can think of, and I'm not even sure. And maybe two of the 8 are these names. It's either Diane or Diana.
Both.
Both.
Both. Diane, in what year? Can you guess the year?
Diane, I think, would be either in the 1960s or maybe even the 1950s. I can't.
1955.
Wow.
4 days making landfall in North Carolina, 4 days after Hurricane Connie did. They were 4 days apart. That would have been something to witness, I think. So Diane was in 1955. Diana was in 1990. The thing that I remember about Diana was that Diana actually formed from a cold low that moved off the mid-Atlantic coast and then dropped off the Carolinas. And up until that point, it was believed that hurricanes that formed from cold lows could never really get much beyond, say, a Category 2 hurricane. Well, Diana proved that theory wrong, as it became a Category 3. And so anyway, that's what I remember from that. So we have Diane and Diana.
How about somebody who's on our chat board? Dennis.
2005 Hurricane Dennis.
That didn't that hit? Was it the Gulf of Mexico or the Southeast United States? Or
I don't remember.
No, I mean, my goodness. But I tell you, we're really getting old. Back in the day, we could have given you the exact hour by hour track.
Absolutely.
Of these things.
Robert Russo has guessed the next one of the D storms, a female, Donna.
Oh, how could it? Now that would have been the first. That should have been the first one on my list. Or, I mean, that's the 1960 storm, right? Or
yes, 1960.
That was the one, I think, at Newark Airport. They recorded a wind of like 115 miles per hour.
Yeah. Donna was in 1960. Went into Florida and then went right up the East Coast. I think it may hold the record for. I think it's in terms of the number of states that it impacted. In terms of its track, I think it holds the record for crossing, a bunch of states. So that's Donna. So we've got
my boss at the first weather company that I worked for, Todd Gross, who was 1 year older than I was, and he said that it was his earliest memory because Donna coincided with the first day of school for him. Now I don't know if he was in kindergarten or first grade at the time, but he often makes reference to that. I don't quite remember. Maybe I vaguely remember Donna, but in any case, 1960. That was over 60 years ago.
Tom Contino, and I'll explain this. Can you explain how do hurricanes form from cold lows? Is that what they mean by a neuter cane? No. We just saw a system, Danielle, formed from a cold non-tropical low, and just what happens is that basically the upper low and the upper low decays, the surface low develops, and it acquires tropical characteristics, and then becomes a full-fledged hurricane, just like what we just saw with Danielle. So it does happen. Usually get at least a couple every season out in the open waters of the Atlantic. Every once in a while, though, you get one of these cutoffs that moves off that forms in the east, in the northeast, or comes across the Ohio Valley, then sort of drops off the southeast coast of the United States, and then sits there for 4 or 5 days, and eventually, as we said, it goes from being a cold core system to a warm core system. It just basically warms up from the bottom up, and the upper low just disappears, and suddenly you're left with a surface low that develops into a tropical depression, or in some cases, a tropical storm. And every once in a while, you even get them to go to a hurricane. So we've got Diana, Donna, Diane, Dennis. So there's 4 left.
I remember just now, and it's one which I spent an overnight with our mutual friend Andy Gregorio back in 1979. It was the 6th of September, and the name of that storm was David.
Yes.
David came up from the the Gulf Coast. I think it hit the panhandle of Florida, and then came northward and brought very squally and windy conditions to our area early on the morning of September the 6th of 1979, and even tornado watches and warnings for the tri-state New York City area. So
yeah, it was another one of those 6-hour type tropical storms that we've seen, like Isaias and a few others. It just
Right.
comes through, goes crazy. Up the east side of the Appalachians, which is usually key to these storms, maintaining some sense of tropical characteristics all the way up and a relatively tight pressure gradient. And a week or two later, there was Hurricane Frederick that
Frederick.
made landfall a little bit further west. And some people were thinking that it would do the same thing that David did, but it didn't, because it wound up going up the west side of the Appalachians. So when they go up the west side of the Appalachians, you don't really see very much in the eastern part of the United States. Johnny Quest has the whole list down, so he got it all. He got all of them right, because he's a hurricane aficionado. So you can add David. That leaves us with 3.
Was Dorian on that list, or?
Dorian is on that list. Yes, Dorian in 2019, Category 5 hurricane that sat over the Bahamas for 3 days, which was incredible, the amount of damage that took place. So that leaves us with 2, Joe. 2.
All right. So have we got all the women, or is it one
No,
man, one woman?
There's 1 male and 1 female left.
Okay. Ugh. Going through my Rolodex here in my head of names that start with D. Dominguez.
No, Johnny Quest got them all right. So Diane, Donna, Dora in 1964. Dora.
The Explorer.
Yes.
The Explorer. Yes.
And the other one was, as I remember, I think was a Category 5 hurricane, was Hurricane Dean in 2007.
Wow. Okay.
You're right, though. We're getting old because, yeah, we would have been able to rattle those off one after another, but those days are long gone. So, anyway, all right, we'll wrap it up for tonight. Thank you so much for being here on this Thursday, and Joe and I will be back on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So we were thinking about moving it till noon, but Joe's got things to do at the festival, so 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. And thank you for the 2 super chat hits tonight from Birder Lady, and from Leon Probitsky, also known as Leon of Lindenhurst.
Yes.
On Facebook. So, ready to say goodnight?
I'm ready to say goodnight. Are we ever going to see Alan Casper on this show?
No.
No. All right. I assume he watches, though.
Oh, yeah. He does. He does from time to time.
All right.
Okie dokie. Have a good night, Joe. I feel better, and we'll see everybody on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.